This is Optimal Finance Daily, episode 2094. Can Frugality be Selfish? By Chris of KeepThrifty.com. And I'm your host and personal finance enthusiast, Diana Merriam. Now let's get right to it and continue optimizing your life. Can Frugality be Selfish? By Chris of KeepThrifty.com. As we get closer to the transition from our big house to our small apartment, an unsettling thought crossed my mind. With our current income, we'd be able to comfortably afford renting a bigger, more expensive place. Selling our house and moving into a small, inexpensive apartment is great for us. But what about the other families that can't afford a bigger place? Did we steal the opportunity from them to live here? When we toured the apartment, we were sandwiched between two other potential tenants. I don't know their economic situation, but it's likely that our family is the outlier here. Most people in our area wouldn't consider cramming a family of 5 into a 2-bedroom apartment if they could afford something bigger. We're a little bit different. We have a high credit score and enough income to comfortably pay the small apartment rent with money to spare. While the landlord didn't communicate whether these factors were a big part of the decision to choose us as tenants, I'd imagine they helped our case. The fact is, there's another family that missed out on this apartment because we got it instead. Our schools are highly ranked, and the apartments here move fast. Lots of families try to rent in our suburbs so they can have their kids in these schools. The competition is high. Knowing that we could have afforded to rent something bigger in our area, are we being selfish in our frugal move to live smaller? Living smaller at the expense of others. By choosing to live smaller, we may have taken the place of a lower income family that now won't have the opportunity to live in our community and have access to our schools. On the flip side, we're living according to our values and spending significantly less each year on shelter than the alternatives. The landlords may have a slightly tougher time renting out their bigger apartments because one less family, us, was looking. At worst, they may have had to drop the price a bit to get them rented. If we had chosen to live bigger because of guilt. If we had chosen not to pursue smaller living, it'd certainly be better for someone else who would have gotten our apartment. But we'd be unhappy because we'd be stuck spending more money for a bigger space that we don't need. What about the landlords? They'd be happy because they'd still get to rent out the small apartment and a bigger, more expensive apartment to us. This option is better for everyone except us. But should we have to sacrifice our values? Our dollars have power. Quote, accept what you cannot change. Change what you cannot accept. Anonymous. So, should we have just rented a bigger, more expensive apartment? Of course not. That's a losing attitude that assumes we're powerless to impact the world around us. The best situation for our community would include sufficient housing so that we can live small and the other family can as well. We're not powerless here. This is a situation where we can be a part of changing the world around us. Here's how. By living smaller, we're sending a message to the landlords and developers out there. If landlords see a higher interest in smaller apartments, they're going to do 2 things. 1, raise the price a bit in the short term, and 2, work to build or buy more small apartments in the long term, which will then bring the price back down. By pursuing what we want, we can actually change the landscape of what's available. That's the economics of supply and demand. There's no reason we should feel stuck living bigger if it doesn't align with our values. By pushing to live smaller, we can help create a community with housing that matches our needs and the needs of others. Living smaller, the long-term picture. By living smaller, we increase the demand for 2-bedroom apartments in our community. Over time, landlords will work with developers to make more 2-bedroom apartments available. As a result, we'll get to live in one and other families will too. We're happy because we're living out our values and spending less. The other family is happy because they get access to our community and schools. The landlords are happy because, well, they're making money. Call it what you will, but our frugal move to live smaller is the right move for our family and can help shape our community to better support frugal values. Keep thrifty and carry on. It's easy to get caught up in dangerous lines of thinking when making big life changes. The world wants to find ways to separate you from your hard-earned dollars and hard-fought values. You're going to get enough pressure from the outside already. Don't add to it internally. Finally, remember the power of your dollars. Every dollar you spend is a vote for what's important. Vote with your values and you can't go wrong. You just listened to the post titled, "Can Frugality Be Selfish?" by Chris of KeepThrifty.com. I agree with Chris here. Living below our means does not lead to depriving others of modest living. It's all about supply and demand. If more people demand modest homes, more modest homes will become available. Shifts in society are often led by people who have access to options, and those shifts are to the benefit of everyone. Let's take the Great Resignation, for instance. People who have the financial resources to leave a toxic work situation without another job lined up are creating a shift in the way employers treat everyone. A Pew Research Center survey found that low pay, a lack of opportunities for advancement, and feeling disrespected at work are the top reasons why Americans quit their jobs last year. And people are still walking out the door. A record 4.5 million people quit their jobs this past March, and the unemployment rate is down 3.6%, which means that more jobs are available than there are workers to fill those jobs. This dynamic gives all people looking for work way more leverage. Employers need to be more competitive when it comes to pay and how they treat their employees. And when you consider that it has never been easier to make money on your own terms, it makes sense that employers need to give us a good reason to take on the huge opportunity cost of full-time work. Technology today, paired with the gig economy and freelance opportunities, mean that many of us have way more flexibility in the way we earn a living. Self-employment and entrepreneurship, when done well, can also be way more lucrative than full-time employment. And those of us that are willing to pursue this are making full-time employment more bearable for those with less access to these options. And that should do it for today. Have a happy rest of your day, and I'll see you on the Thursday show tomorrow, where your optimal life awaits.